That would be me.
Look who we're hanging with.
Ryan O'Halloran.
Jason David Frank.
Humberto Ramos.
Please do not change channel.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for logging on and tuning in. If you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe. That way you can keep coming back over and over to hang with us and our fantastic creative guests in the arts and entertainment world. I'm Allison Murray, and right now we're at the Community Arts Network in Oneonta, New York, and we're hanging with actor, author, and film producer Greg Klein. Thank you so much for hanging with us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to hang.
Oh, awesome. So you've got a lot of stuff. Let's see. Let's start with... you have 2 unpublished novels and 1 published novel, The King of New Orleans. So tell us about that.
Okay. Well, that's actually a wrestling biography of a wrestler named the Junkyard Dog, who unfortunately has passed away and was sort of a forgotten hero down in New Orleans. And it was a really interesting story about, in the 1970s, early 1980s, in the Deep South, how a wrestling promoter named Bill Watts decided that what he needed was for the star of his show to be an African-American wrestler. And it had never been done in pro wrestling before. People thought he was crazy. He was actually, he was a kind of a libertarian right-wing guy, so I'm not a libertarian, but if you were interested in the free market working, as they say, it was a great story. And it was just a great story overall, and it was, we lived in New Orleans for a while. My wife is from New Orleans, and it was just a forgotten story at the time. And so it was a great experience. It was a lot of fun. It was very different than a lot of the other stuff that I do and a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now. But I think as an artist, that's kind of the way it goes. You have to see what works and what doesn't work. And
yeah, awesome. So you made your acting debut in an off-Broadway play, The Sun. How was that experience when you first started?
It was neat. Well, it was a play that I wrote called The Sun, and it was based on my experience at a small-town newspaper that was in the process of being bought out by Gannett. And so it was interesting. I was playing a character that I probably was a little too young for at the time. And now I'm a newspaper editor again at the Cooperstown Crier in Cooperstown, New York. And we're owned by a giant corporation. And sometimes I think it's like a, sort of dharma where I'm living out my character's life now as I watch a corporation from far away and I cut up my newspaper.
Yeah.
So if there's ever a TV show, I'm ready. I've done the research.
There you go. You have written 4 plays. Tell us about those.
Well, The Sun was the first play,
Yeah.
and that was, as you said, off Broadway at a place called the KGB Bar in the East Village. And it was a great experience. It was a learning experience. We did it in January in New York City specifically because that was the best rates on the theaters. And then you come to find out the reason it's the best rate of the theater is because it's freezing cold and nobody wants to go out and see shows, and so they give you a discounted rate. So, you learn, okay, I'm not going to do that again. Look for a summer run or something, as long as the place has air conditioning, right? And then my second play was at the Fringe Festival in New York the same year. It was called Hangin. It was a political play. And then I've written 2 plays since then that have not been staged, but both have had readings. One was this one that we're reading tonight in Oneonta, which is called Sunset Painting, which was about my life, kind of taking care of my grandmother at the end of her life. And then the other one is called Jeans, and it's a little bit of a political drama. And so, the thing about being an artist and being a writer is you have stuff in a drawer, not a literal drawer anymore. Now it's like on your desktop.
Yeah.
But, you kind of have to spend some time with one thing and see if it works, see if you can sell it, and then if that doesn't work, you kind of move on to the next thing. As a writer, I try to always write, like every day. So, my acting coach a long time ago said, when you write fade out on a script, the very next thing you should do is open up a new file and start your new script and write fade in on the next one. So I always try to take that to heart.
So you've also appeared in film. You did 24 and The Devil Wears Prada with Meryl Streep. How was it working with that icon? Wow.
Well, as I joke, you can see me in those films, but not hear me. So I didn't specifically
That's
work
okay.
with Meryl Streep. 24 was great. It was a really good experience. I got what they would call in the business coverage, really good coverage. So you can see me making bombs and interacting with the
Nice.
lead villains and things like that. And they never killed me off, so I always thought that they would bring me back someday. And I was playing a Russian, so I thought, Russian villains are hot now, right? But
I know. You never know.
yeah,
You never know.
we'll see. Maybe
Yeah.
there's still a chance. And then The Devil Wears Prada was very funny. It was freezing cold. I did 2 scenes. One where you think Meryl Streep is in Paris and she's getting out of a limo. And so we're all kind of huddled around the limo waiting for her to get out, having fake French accents, like, Miranda, Miranda, look over here, Miranda. And then the other scene is at the National Museum of History when they all go to the big ball towards the end of the film. And that was an amazing scene because Anne Hathaway is there and Emily Blunt and Stanley Tucci and things like that. But the first scene, I always tell people, this is like the magic of film, because when you see the scene, they're in Paris in a limo. And Anne Hathaway, they really took her to Paris and shot that scene. So you see one side of the scene, and you see Anne Hathaway, and you see Paris in the backdrop behind her, and she's really in Paris, apparently. Well, I don't know why, but they didn't take Meryl Streep to Paris. Maybe it was too expensive. So they shot her side of the scene in New York City. And so you see one side, and it's Anne Hathaway, and she's really in Paris, and then they turn it around, and you see Meryl Streep, and you think she's in Paris, but she's really getting out of a limousine in New York City. So the secrets of film, right?
Yeah, that's cool. So you're also looking to get a baseball film made. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I wrote a script. Actually, at first it was a script, then I turned it into a novel. The novel was better than the script, so I rewrote the script based on the novel. But it's about a story called The Paper Tigers, which was a story that I heard for the first time when I was probably 16 or 17 years old, and I just fell in love with the story. In 1912, in New York City, the Detroit Tigers are playing what was then the New York Highlanders. They became the New York Yankees. And Ty Cobb climbed into the stands and beat up a crippled fan and nearly killed him. And he got suspended. And his teammates, who up until that point kind of hated him, went on strike in his defense. And so the manager of the Detroit Tigers, his name was Huey Jennings. They called him Iya because of his battle cry when he was a player. And he went, they moved on to Philadelphia, and he went to the streets of Philadelphia to field a scab team because his team was on strike. And they became known as the Paper Tigers. They played the Philadelphia Athletics, who were the world champs, or the defending world champs at the time, and they got killed. But that's not really the story. There's like a story within the story, and it's all these fascinating characters. And one of them was actually very good and probably could have been a pro ball player, but instead he went back to sort of grifting and died in a bar fight a couple of years later. And one of them was one of the guys who fixed the World Series a couple of years later during the Black Sox scandal. One of them, the guy who was the pitcher who gave up 24 runs that day, he was a seminary student at St. Joseph's University. So I always thought it was fascinating, like what kind of conversations was he having with God on the mound that day as the Philadelphia Athletics are pounding him for 20 runs or 24 runs. So yeah, it just, fascinating baseball history, fascinating characters. The problem is some people think you can't make a baseball movie.
Oh, gosh, yes, you can.
Yeah.
You can. I was just going to say, what do you need to make your movie?
Well,
Funding?
Funding, I think at this stage the book is really in good form, so that's why I need a literary agent. But even as an actor, sometimes I would get agents, and the thing is, the agent is not, you still have to work for it. The agent is not the end of the rainbow. The agent is part of the process. So a lot of luck, obviously. Probably a couple of name actors who like the story would help.
Okay.
And,
Hear that, guys?
Exactly.
You hear that?
And,
Okay.
Living in Cooperstown, it seems like the perfect place to make a baseball
I know.
movie. So,
This is the Baseball Hall of Fame. Let's see. You also want to start a film office locally. That's interesting.
yeah, we moved back here. We lived in LA for a couple of years, and it was just really bad timing. The writers went on strike, and they had what was called film flight, where everybody was leaving California to chase the tax credits in various states. And Then we moved to New Orleans, where my wife was from, and we worked there for a couple of years. And my family's from here. I was born in Syracuse, and we were getting to the stage where my son needed to make a school decision. And every place else we had lived, they kept saying, well, you can't go to public school, you can't go to public school. And my mom lived up here, and we just knew the school systems were good, and upstate New York is beautiful. And so some other things didn't work out, and we decided let's move back home, or move to my home. And so I thought originally that I would go to the city more often. I actually got a commercial agent right as we got here. But then they stopped calling, and I didn't book anything, and it was very expensive to drive down and back before I had a job. And then I got a job, and then it was kind of, you couldn't do it because you couldn't skip out on work. But I never lost the desire to act, and I never lost the desire to make movies. And with the tax credits in New York State for making films so good right now, it seems like every other part of the state is taking advantage of it, and Central New York is not. So I've just been lobbying and talking to politicians and public officials and businesses and just trying to get some interest in starting a film office here so that maybe we could bring some films into the area. And the Syracuse area has kind of taken the name Central New York, but there is no state-recognized film office for Cooperstown, for Oneonta, for Otsego County, but even for the larger region. There's no place on the state website that says Catskills Film Office. There's no place that says Adirondacks Film Offices. There's no place that says Mohawk Valley Film Offices. There's no place that says Utica Film Office. So it's something that we need in a larger region, and it's something we need in a smaller region here in the county. And if it helps me make a film or get some acting work, that'd be great too. But talking to all these public officials and stuff, I just feel like it's something we need for the region too.
Yeah, and there's been a few Hollywood people went to Little Falls not long ago. You know what I
was a
mean?
movie in Little
so
Falls,
it is
yeah.
coming. It is coming.
It is here, but the rest of the state is so far ahead of us right now. The Capital Region, Buffalo, Niagara, the Hudson region, they all have 2, 3, sometimes 4 dedicated film offices. In, I don't want to get this wrong, but I think it's Ulster County. They now have a banking group set up that will loan people money specifically to come film in Ulster County. So, that's way ahead of the game compared to where we are. We haven't had, film here in a year or two that anybody knows of.
Yeah. Well, I hope you get it.
I hope so too.
Let's see, because you're also not only doing that, you're bringing jobs to the community as well.
Well, that's how
which
you sell it
is-
for
yeah,
sure.
exactly.
The state releases their figures every year about how well the tax credits are doing. And through November of last year, they said there had been 207 permits for the tax credits to film. That led to 210,000 local hires and like $3.8 billion of economic impact. And
gosh.
the joke, it's not funny, but everybody gets the punchline that I tell our public officials is, guess how much of that we had in Otsego County, and the answer is zero, and zero.
Yeah.
So yeah, we want to change that for sure.
So is there anything that you haven't done that you want to do that's on your bucket list?
Well, I would like to get these movies made,
Yeah, definitely
for sure.
that.
And I would like to get the film office up and running. Bucket list, the great thing about being creative is there's never really an end. There's just another project. When you finish with a play, you start to think about the next play. And, luckily, we do have a great acting venue in Cooperstown at the Fenimore Art Museum. And last summer, I got to do Peter Quince in A Midsummer Night's Dream. And so, every year it's like, well, what are you guys going to do this year? What part can I play this year? And, there's a point where you feel like, well, maybe I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be a young star, obviously, at this stage in my career, and maybe I won't be the leading man. But the great thing about Shakespeare is there's, dozens of great
That's
roles.
exactly
So,
right.
and all ages.
We must have missed you because we interviewed A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Well, I was in the
At Fenimore.
August cast, so you may have.
When did we go?
There was
In
a July
August?
cast and an August cast.
July.
So you guys
July.
probably saw the other cast. But yeah.
Yeah, we interviewed over there. So what's coming up for you after tonight? Are you doing any more open mics, book signings, just busying yourself
Like I said,
with your new projects?
Yeah, I try to write every day. I try to send out ships every week, to agents and possible partners. I've been very active trying to get this film office set up. And I have a 12-year-old son, and travel soccer season's coming up. So, so
it.
soon there'll be a lot more coaching and a lot more Sunday trips. I think last year we did like a 300-mile round trip for a game in Elmira.
My goodness.
Yeah, but we got a good group of players. So if Cooperstown wins a state championship in 3 or 4 years, you'll know
All right.
those are our boys.
Okay. And where can people find you? Contact information if someone's interested in helping you with any one of your projects?
Well, first and foremost, I'm the editor of the Cooperstown Crier in Cooperstown, New York. So at Cooper Crier on Twitter. Also, I still have a Twitter account set up for my wrestling book. It's at JYDbook. And my email is jydbook@gmail.com. So if anybody was, really interested in helping, certainly they're welcome to email me.
All right. Do we have time for a game? We like to play games on this show. All right. We are going to play Mad Gab. Have you ever played Mad Gab?
No, I have not.
This is just not what you say, it's what you hear.
Okay.
So you pick a card, I pick a card, and then we pick a bubble, we say what's in the bubble, and we got to guess what we're trying to say without embarrassing ourselves too much. And the answer is on the opposite side. So if you pick A, it's on the opposite side. Okay. Under A. Okay, you want me to go first?
Yeah,
Break
go
the
ahead.
ice? Okay, let's see. A.k.a. Earful's election.
Cool. Earful's election.
A.k.a. Farful's, Earful's? I'm so blind. Election.
Okay.
So,
like something about an earache?
let's
or
see. Yes, Harry got it.
What is
A
it?
colorful selection.
Oh, wow. I never would have gotten that. All right, you ready? Up, Aaron, elk, lip, hearse. Up, Aaron, elk, lip, hearse.
Up and out. I don't know. What is it? This is a hard game.
A pair of nail clippers?
A pair of nail clippers. All right. Wow, that was a good one. Well, guys, it's been a blast. We had so much fun hanging with Greg today. I am Allison Murray, but before we go, we'd like to thank our partners, our brand new partner, Krypton Radio out of LA, Famous Faces and Funnies, Off the Chain Radio with Yvonne Mason, Space Coast Comics, the Florida Book News, Wordfire Press, our great friends at Someone Unique Magazine, Asylum Convention Entertainment Services with Heather Reed. And these are the folks that share our videos all over the World Wide Web, and we hope you will too. Don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment, and let us know what you think of today's show and our guest. You can also check our guest links below. Remember to subscribe, log on, and stay tuned to see who we're hanging with next. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's great to meet you.
Fantastic.